Welcome to Discussing Fitchburg Now. I'm your host, Sam Squailia. For this segment up right now, I have Joanne Powell, who is a candidate for the Clerk of Courts, the Worcester County Clerk of Courts.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so the Clerk of Courts. Let's start with, what is the Clerk of Courts? Because I feel like it's, we've done shows on the Governor's Council, and that's another kind of down ballot race that no one really knows what it does.
Yeah.
Clerk of Courts is right up there, I feel. So what is Clerk of Courts?
The Clerk of Courts is the manager of Superior Court.
The manager of Superior Court.
Superior Court in all of Worcester County, so 60 cities and towns.
60 cities and towns.
Yes, there's one Superior Court for all of us. So like there's multiple district courts, like you have Fitchburg District Court, there's Gardner District Court, but there's only one Superior Court.
And that's in Worcester?
In Worcester,
okay.
Yes.
The newer building.
Yeah, on Main Street that holds 5 courthouses actually.
Really?
Yeah. So, and Superior Court prosecutes the major crimes, the most serious crimes, like first-degree murder, the felonies, rapes, all those big things, plus all the civil cases that are over $25,000 or malpractice lawsuits, labor relations, those kind of things.
So we're talking about Superior Court.
Yep.
And the manager.
Yes.
Of the
court.
Of the court.
So running the court, it's a management position, not a legal position, a management position. You have lawyers on staff, but the person the Clerk of Courts is managing the office. So when something tragic happens, it would be up to me to make sure that the case is set, is established, it's docketed into the computer properly, it goes through all the investigation properly, the evidence is secured properly, all those things so that by the time it gets in front of a judge, everything is up to par and it's ABC right in order.
Okay, so now I assume you make that argument because the current candidate or the current incumbent, Dennis McManus, the Democrat,
yes.
He is a lawyer.
He is a lawyer.
And he has been the Clerk of Court, let's see, since 2006.
Yes.
And he has had no opponents.
No opponents.
It's a 6-year term.
6-year term.
He's had no opponents the entire time.
So he's looking to do another 6 years, which would give him 18 years as your Clerk of Courts.
With no one, you're the first person that's ever run against him for the Clerk of Courts.
I'm the first person to run for the seat and have an opponent for the seat in over 50 years.
Really?
We've had no choice in Worcester County.
Has it always been a democratically held seat?
As far back as the records indicate, yes, and never a female.
And never a female?
Never a female.
Of course.
Yes.
50 years.
Right, 50 years, and obviously we barely had the vote back then. So that's going to change.
And so you are not a lawyer, but you are trained in administrative.
Yes. I currently work for the Probate and Family Court with Register Stephanie Fatman, got elected in 2014.
Yep.
I came in as her head administrative assistant, so I'm already a manager in a court. I'm managing in Probate and Family Court. Before that, I worked with the District Attorney's Office. Before that, the Department of Revenue. I have my MBA from Assumption College. So I have been a manager. I am a manager. At Probate and Family Court, we found that there were a lot of things that they were behind in, technologically, professionalism, training.
When you came into Probate and Family Court,
right, and so we've made a lot of changes. How long have you been
working for Probate and Family Court?
Since Ms. Fatman got elected in 2014, so I came early 2015. So what's that, 3.5 years or so now. And so what we found is the staff, some had been there 30, 40 years, knowledgeable people, but they hadn't had the training or the updating. Technology was way behind. One thing I did is I was in charge of payroll, and when the payroll clerk was teaching me how to do it, she had spreadsheet after spreadsheet. Everything was manual.
Like the paper book.
Yes, and she spent the majority of her week doing this. And if we requested time off, we had to write a little note. She had little papers, and would put it in a box on our desk. Now, in 2012, the entire state went to automated payroll system, which is called SSTA. And no one had to do anything on paper. Like she kept saying, we need it for the auditors, the auditors, the auditors. And when I went to Boston and I got trained in Boston, and I'm like, do we need to do any of these spreadsheets on paper? They go, no, you're being audited all the time because now it's online. So she was basing her payroll, what she was spending most of her time on a 1998 memo. And in 2012, everything was automated. So I took over payroll. What she did in 25, 30 hours a week, I now did in 1 or 2 hours a week.
That's a big, improvement
right.
in efficiency.
That's the kind of thing that we've been able to bring to probate and family court, and that's what I want to bring to Superior Court. Updating it, helping the staff be more efficient. So that
Managing,
yes.
It takes a manager.
To manage, right, and bring them into the 21st century. There's been a lot of improvements. There's e-filing, there's e-pay, there's live docketing. There's so many things that have happened. We're only 50 miles from Boston, Worcester to Boston, but it's like we're 50 years behind. So I want to bring it up to date.
So you're familiar with, do you work in Boston? Is that the?
Well, I did with the Department of Revenue, and it's all under the umbrella of trial court.
Mass trial court.
Yeah, Mass Trial Court has 6,600 employees at 48 courthouses across the state, so we're one courthouse. So for all the training, you go into Boston. But then each courthouse runs their own show. Right. It's not standardized. But there are good ideas already there, like a website, simple things that we don't have to invent. They're already there. You just have to implement them.
So Worcester Superior Court does not have a website?
No, it doesn't have its own website. It uses trial court, but even that's very, very weak. I want it so that when people come
nowadays, everything's online.
I know.
People don't even have printers anymore.
Right, they don't. And you should be able to know what's on the docket for that day, what court cases are coming up. You should be able to know, like, just look online and get the forms that you need to file a case. All that kind of thing does not happen right now. It will when I become clerk.
So what inspired you to run for this? You've been working in this environment for a long time.
Yes.
So what inspired you to run for clerk of courts?
Yeah, because I saw at probate how far behind they were, and I saw that little changes could make a big difference. Like it used to take 3 weeks to get a case filed and a hearing date. Now it takes 3 days. Like this thing's, they had over $3 million in escrow money sitting in accounts at probate that hadn't been touched. So they belonged to families or heirs of family members, and at the time you either couldn't find the heir, the person passed away, or the heir was a minor, and no one had touched these cases in decades. Literally decades. Belonged to over 400 families. So we started going through the paperwork, finding out people, the law firms had passed away. Like so much had happened, like you couldn't even locate that.
So it's a lot of work each case to try to locate everyone.
Right. But in the short time we've been there, we've been able to return $1.7 million. So just over half of it, and either to the individuals that it belong to, or send it back to unclaimed money at the Secretary of State's office.
Which maybe before that they felt it was too daunting of a task and said, we'll deal with that later, but later never comes.
So I live in Charlton. I've raised 5 kids. I've been married for 33 years. In Charlton, I was, did all the PTO and
you were on the
school
Little
committee?
League.
I was on the school committee, all those kind of things. So I've been active in my community. I want to give back to my community. I think we can run this office. God forbid anyone is a victim of a crime. I want to make sure that they, are taken care of, and that their case is up to par and not any mistakes, because I would hate to have a mistrial or anything horrible like that happening. So that's the reason why I want to go and serve. I've been campaigning for 8 months, 9 months, and I like campaigning. I get out there. I've hit most of those 60 cities and towns. 60. I've been in parades.
So it's the entirety of Worcester County.
Yeah, all of that Central Mass block.
The same as the Governor's Council.
Yeah, she actually has 5 more. She has 65 towns. I don't know the rhyme or reason. The DA has the same district.
Joe Early.
Yes, Joe Early. And the Register of Probate is the same. The Register of Deeds actually has less. We have the Worcester County.
Yeah, well, our Register of Deeds has northern Worcester County, which we only have 5
towns. And then the Worcester Registry of Deeds has 55. So if you put those 2 together, Clerk of Courts would have all of it. So I don't know. All of it goes back 150 years ago. Who knows?
Based on county government.
Exactly.
And that maybe where's the 6-year term?
Yeah,
that's the Register of Deeds, a 6-year term.
Yep.
The Clerk of courts is 6-year term.
Yeah, and that's all based on county government too. And the
governor's council is only 2 years.
2 years, and then the DA used to be 6 years, and when county government ended, because officially we don't have county government anymore, that position is 4 years. So
4 years.
Yeah, so he has to run every 4 years. So
offset it from the 6.
Yeah,
I guess.
and he's had a busy time this year too. So
Joe Early.
Yes, he's had, and I worked for him in the community outreach before I went to probate. So
yes, he has a challenger.
A challenger, yeah.
Just one?
Just one.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had them on, but
I have not. But
okay.
I've met both Joe Early and Blake Rubin.
Yeah. So interesting. That'll be the whole election process is really going to be interesting this time around because
I love it.
So much has been happening, you know, nationally, at the state level, and it will be very interesting. I love it too. Like, it'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be fun.
So on that note, you're no stranger to running for office, right? You ran for school committee.
Yep.
And you've run for other offices?
I ran for state rep in 2006, actually. So, and I did lose that at the time, and then that's when I started working with Joe Early after I lost. So it wasn't a bad deal.
So you met him on the campaign trail?
I met him on the campaign, because that's when he went into office in 2006. He took over from John Conte.
John Conte.
Yeah.
Joe Early came into the same time that Dennis McManus, the current clerk of courts, came into that position.
Yes. So.
Who was the clerk of courts before that?
Before McManus, Franny Ford. Franny Ford, and he ran for governor's council. Oh. Yeah, so they kind of flip-flop back and forth.
Dennis McManus was the governor's council for the 7th District.
I know. So they've been swapping jobs.
You know, a lot of people run for a lot of different offices, right?
Yes.
And so you haven't always been a Republican either. You ran as a Democrat.
Yes, I did.
What would you say, did you just recently become a Republican? Or?
I was a Democrat. I'm born Irish Catholic from a big family. I'm the oldest of 5. So
they're all Democrat.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm a John Kennedy kind of, you know, I grew up in that era. I was born the year he died. So but my mom and dad were strong Democrats. And so you know, as an adult, I just became what mom and dad were. And I did run as a Democrat. Things have changed over the last 40 years, and I feel that the Democratic Party has dramatically changed from what it was from John Kennedy's time. I mean, John Kennedy right now would be a conservative Republican from what he was back in the 60s.
The Democratic Party and the Republican Party have certainly all changed a lot in 40 years.
So I believe, I don't know, Ronald Reagan had been a Democrat and then he became a Republican. I kind of feel like he did. I didn't leave the party left me kind of thing. And so at this time, I feel my
closely aligned with the Republican Party.
But I want to emphasize that this position isn't political.
Well, that's what I was gonna segue into. You know, you've ran both as a Democrat and as a Republican, but this position really shouldn't be a political position.
If it were up to me, you wouldn't
be elected.
Yeah,
position.
It wouldn't be elected, and you wouldn't have to choose a party because I just want to. I want to have the most efficient court. I want to run the courthouse as efficiently as possible. I don't care who's Democrat, who's Republican. I mean, Charlie Baker, to his credit, has been a very good, moderate Republican who's getting the job done. That's what I want to do. I want to get the job done.
Most popular governor in the entire United States.
I see a problem. I'm very hands-on. I've been very hands-on in my campaign, moving around, out there every day. I am a hands-on manager. I want to be there. I want to find out where the problems are. I want to see how things are run now. I want to learn how they can get better. And I want to support the staff in giving them the technology or whatever the tools they need to be as efficient as possible.
So how has the campaign trail been? Do people talk to you like, Clerk of Courts, what is that?
Yeah.
Is that most common?
I've been door knocking quite a bit, and that's basically the conversation that I have at the door every time. What's a clerk of court? A few people have had interaction with the court and know what it is.
The real political animals.
Yeah, or the people that have had troubles. In fact, a gentleman today told me he had just been indicted, so as I was knocking on his door. So there are a few people that have had to interact with the court.
You get the stories as you go door to door. You get all the, court, let me tell you.
Yeah, but I really want to, you know, I've been working really hard, and now that we're down to what, the last 3 weeks or so, 2.5, 3 weeks. Now the big things are happening. Like I was doing the door knocking and I've hit the festivals, I've done the parades. Now it's like billboards are out there.
There's a billboard for both you and for McManus, Powell and McManus in Fitchburg. Like, aha.
Yeah. I also have my logo and my face on buses.
Really?
Yes, I got up here in North County. I got them on.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, they look really sleek because you got beautiful buses up here.
We do the Mart buses.
Yes, they're very cool, and the company was phenomenal to work with.
Oh, here's a picture of your banner.
Oh yes.
Or your billboard.
That's the billboard. Yes. Yep. And in Worcester, I have 20 buses that are going around, so with my logo on it.
No joking around with your campaign.
Yeah, so it's good. And now it's up to a lot of social media. There'll be the phone calls. I have newspaper ads. So there'll be the bigger things that you can hit. There's 260,000 voters in this election, so I need to reach out to a lot of people.
So no debate.
No debate.
Is this like a debate thing?
Well, the thing is,
I mean, there's never been an opponent.
Right. And it's tricky because what are you going to argue on? It's not like we set policy. We don't make law. We don't have, like, you don't have to choose an issue. We just running the office, and basically it's a different style of management. He is more hands-off and lets his people run the show. I will be more hands-on, supporting my staff as much as possible. Other than that, how are you going to argue who's better or worse? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you say, oh, I'm going to file this way and you file that way.
I guess less of a debate, more of a forum where you can all have a discussion.
Yes.
Would be nice for the voters.
It would be nice.
But we have you here.
Yeah, and he's welcome to go on any show that I'm sure you would have him if he asked.
Certainly. Yes, I've actually never met Dennis McManus.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's another thing, like people will know me. I will be around the town.
I have met you numerous times at many events.
Yes, I do go to events. I want to follow the pattern of both Jen Casey as governor's counsel and the sheriff, Lou Evangelitis, that they do well in their position as a sheriff and as a governor's counsel, but then they're out in the community. And sheriff has done the face-to-face program, and he has the pets, the dog animals that he has, that
the canines.
Yeah, the canines. He does the coats for the people. For the people.
Yes, the sheriff's coat drive.
He has a lot. I will be that kind of manager where I'll be out in the community. I want to get the office up and running, but then I want to serve the community in some capacity. I don't know exactly yet how, but I know I want to serve the people. I know, like, parolees have a reading program, so I'd like to have help with reading program for the parolees, or getting their GED, or whatever things. I want to work closely with the sheriff.
Well, when you're in that position, you can learn of the needs.
Yes.
I would imagine pretty quickly you start to see, hey, this could really help out here.
Right. And in 6 years, you will know what I have done to improve the office and what I am doing to serve the community. And you will know my name, if you don't know it already. But I will make sure, you know what I mean? Like, the voters are our boss. There is no boss over us. So if I'm not serving the voters, then I'm not doing my job. And that's what I want to do. Yeah.
And so the office for the clerk of courts, that's right in Worcester Superior Court.
Yes.
Or Worcester Courthouse?
The Worcester Courthouse so you go through security, and there are 5 courthouses. So it has a district court, has a juvenile court, has housing court, probate court, Superior Court. Yeah, that's the 5. So right now I'm on the 2nd floor with probate court. And
so you work in the building right now?
I work in the same building, yeah.
And you're hoping to go down to the 1st floor?
Yeah, down to the first. I don't know if it's a
moving
up or moving down, but yeah, that's what I'll do. Most people will only interact with Superior Court as juror. We do the jurors, and even that system I would like to automate and have better contact with the people that are coming in. I mean, it takes a lot of time to, you're giving a time.
A lot of people have told me they don't register to vote because they're afraid that will trigger them to be called to jury duty.
Yeah, that's a sad.
Now, I've never been called to jury duty, but I have been registered to vote since I was 18. So that is not the case. If that's why you're not registered to vote, stop it.
I think they can get some of the information from motor vehicles
now.
They
certainly can.
Yeah, and I think they're reaching out. They need to have a good list of good citizens to serve, and so they got to tap into you some way. They'll find a way to tap into you. But I want to even make that system as if, you know what I mean? I don't want to waste people's time. If we don't need you that day, I want to let you know you're not needed that day. If you are needed,
that's the problem with being called for jury duty.
Right.
The worry is, it's going to be a complete waste of time. You get called, you go, you spend a day out of work that you don't get paid for, and you sit all day, and then you don't actually get called.
And you know it could be automated. We could have everyone text. You could be text that morning, no, we don't need you, yes, we need you.
The RMV is becoming more automated with the time of when you can expect to be called.
Things are already in place. All you have to do is have the person that's motivated to bring it to the system, and that will be me.
The it's time for a change kind of mantra.
Yes, exactly.
And it's time for a new digital age of technology.
Yeah, I mean, this is 2018, right? It's not like this stuff is just invented. Technology's been around for a while, and it changes all the time, and I think it's up to the clerk or the register of probate or the registry of deeds or whomever to be on top of it.
Yeah, but when you've been doing the same thing the same way for a long time, I know it's difficult for me. When there's a new technology, I'm like, nah, no. When digital cameras first came out, it's like, no way, film. But now, you couldn't even imagine. But you're saying a lot of these old courts are still working the old technology.
Yes, so that's what I want to change. I mean, when Charlie Baker started as governor, they did not have Wi-Fi in the State House.
What?
They used to siphon it off of Suffolk University. Yeah.
There was no Wi-Fi.
There was no Wi-Fi in the State House.
Now there's Wi-Fi.
And there's Wi-Fi, yeah. And actually, Lieutenant Governor Polito and Governor Charlie Baker have made sure that there's broadband throughout the entire Commonwealth.
They're working on that, right?
Yeah, they've been to Karen's been to 351 towns, cities and towns, and that was some of those really out Western Mass ones.
They have no access to internet.
I know.
Some of them have satellite.
Exactly. So, you know, the technology's there.
I mean, Fitchburg, in downtown Fitchburg, we don't have a high-speed internet access in downtown Fitchburg.
Wow.
You know, we're coming a little section of it. We had like, I don't know, $250,000 to do Airport Road and a little section of downtown. But Main Street Fitchburg, no broadband. We only have it in one small section for Homeland Security in their office.
So they're working on that now, or hopeful?
We're hopeful that we get more
funding. More money. I was going to say, do you have to get more money to appropriate it?
Well, you know, it doesn't behoove Verizon, Comcast, you know, to dig up the streets and run underground conduit when you have no customers. But it's hard to get customers when you have
don't have it. Yeah, it's the chicken or the egg kind of situation.
It's kind of a catch-22.
Charlton has that issue with water. We don't have water in our town, or we haven't, because we all had wells, but then some wells got contaminated, so they had to bring the water, but only certain people had to have it. So it's been an issue for a long time in Charlton.
Right. Infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure. Yep. And those are costly things, obviously.
All right, let's see. Back on the clerk of courts.
Okay, yeah, I know, we deviated a little.
Yeah, let's see. So, how do you feel the current clerk of courts may be lacking, other than, you know, the digital technology that you noted?
Hands-on. I will be in the office every day. I don't think that hasn't been the case for the past 12 years. So, I believe that a lot of people have used Superior Court and don't know the clerk of courts. And I will be there. I will be the face that you see.
A full-time employee. Yeah. You know, we have that argument right now with a Register of Deeds. You know, that she's not there in the office. She only works 3 hours a day or whatever it is. So would you say that that same kind of argument is being made about the current clerk of courts?
Yes, I would say that. So I don't want to be nasty or anything, but yeah, I would be a hands-on manager. I will try to. This is one thing that's right now. It could take a case up to 3 or 4 or 5 years to be completed to get to a solution.
Sure.
The law is 18 months. You're supposed to have an 18-month tracking. I will focus on that tracking and get it down to what it should be legally.
So some cases are taking 3 to 5 years. But the law says that a case can't go longer than 18 months?
It's supposed to be 18 months.
How does that work?
They do their best, or I would focus on the criminal ones, obviously, because you need swift justice. Somebody may be sitting in jail,
prison.
Right, and need to have the case resolved. And victim families need to have it resolved. You can't have a poor family
being dragged out and summoned multiple times over and over.
Right. It's my understanding that they've been allowed to have continuances many times. So you have a date set for a hearing, and then, you know, a week before, a few days before, somebody will say, I can't make it that day, I need more time, and they'll extend the time. I think you should have to have a pretty good reason why you're extending that time. and I would focus on reducing that time. You could mediate some of these cases and get them not even to go to trial, but to have them settled before they get to trial. There's a lot you can be, again, there's a lot that can be done.
More efficiency.
Yes.
That's the theme I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's all the same. Like, things are already being done in other courts that you could bring to this court, and that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so on that note, we have about a minute left.
Okay.
I don't know if you'd like to look at the camera and kind of talk for a minute and tell the voters why you think you'd be the best candidate.
Right. Again, my name's Joanne Powell. I'm running for Clerk of Courts. I've been in probate and family court. This is a management position. I want to emphasize that. I'm a hands-on manager. I would do everything I can to make it the most efficient, technologically up-to-date. You haven't had a choice in over 50 years for this position. I hope to be your choice to get the job done. I'm doing everything I can to get my name out there. Anything you can do to help spread the word, I really appreciate it. Early voting starts next week, October 22nd to November 2nd. You can go to your town hall and vote on Monday if you'd like to. But the big day is November 6th, and I'm asking for your vote for Joanne Powell for Clerk of Courts on November 6th. Thank you. How's that sound?
Thank you so much. All right, so we've been speaking with Joanne Powell, the candidate for Clerk of Courts of Worcester County, and we're going to take a short break, and after that, we're going to be speaking with Senator Dean Tran. So we'll see you then. Hi, Sam Squailia here with representatives from the Salvation Army in Fitchburg, and we're talking about the Red Kettle campaign and the kickoff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Red Kettle campaign, that's your largest fundraiser of the year for the Salvation Army.
It is.
And we're having a kickoff on November 10th, Saturday at 12 p.m. And where is that?
That is going to be down on Main and Day. We're going to have a tree of lights this year. We're going to be introducing that to the community. It's going to be a sponsorship as well as a visual that you can see how the Salvation Army Red Kettle campaign is going by the tree lighting up.
So we're going to have like a tree and it's like a thermometer of lights.
With the essence of Christmas. So we're going to have the tree lighting as the thermometer for when we hit our goal, the whole tree will be lit. So it's a visual to the community on what the Salvation Army is doing to help make everything possible. So this campaign is huge.
And all funds received, that goes right back into our communities of Fitchburg, Leominster, and Lunenburg, right?
Absolutely.
Right, that's a big thing. The money stays local. It doesn't go to Boston or somewhere else around the country. All stays local here in our local area. It does a lot of good work.
Yep, and you have the canteen truck that you use to visit fires when it happens in our local community.
Right.
You set up a warming station in the winter.
It's all getting into motion right now as we speak. Yesterday, we were talking with the different agency and where the warming center is going to be, what are we going to do, what's going to be Salvation Army role. Our role is going to feed people and keep them warm.
Right.
And our canteen does help out. We were down in Andover when the big gas problem happened down there. So we do a lot of good things, not only in our local community, but if need be, outside of this area too.
And with the hurricanes, just so everyone knows, Salvation Army is front row, center, aiding and abating these families. We have deployed today. Our first deployment did leave Massachusetts. We have a staff down there for pastoral care at the moment, and they're just going through everything to determine what's the next step. Next step is going to be a second string, which we do have our locals from Fitchburg, Leominster, and Lunenburg on call. So it's pretty exciting knowing that we started off with what is Salvation Army to we are Army, we are Salvation Army, we are in the community, and we are serving the needs of the people. So yes, it's very exciting.
So Salvation Army, our local community resource. The Red Kettle campaign kickoff is Saturday, November 12th at 12 p.m. at Main and Day Street, where there will be a tree of lights. For more information, you can go to Salvation Army on Facebook, Salvation Army Fitchburg on Facebook.
Yep.
And you can always give them a call. What's the number?
978-342-3300.
All right, thank you so much.
No,
Lynette,
thank you.
Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Hi, Sam Squailia here with Chris McDermott from the North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce.
You got it.
All right, and we're promoting the 3rd Congressional District debate.
We are. That is going to be happening tomorrow night. It's going to be at Kent Recital Hall at Fitchburg State University, and we're really excited. Literally, as of this afternoon, all 3 candidates will be attending. So,
I saw that Rick Green has confirmed.
He has confirmed. We had the walkthrough just a couple of hours ago, and his manager was present to help out and take the draw for who will go first and last and how they'll cycle through. Okay. So we're really looking forward to it.
So who's going to go first and last? Can you tell us?
I don't actually have that information, and I'm not able to share it, but it should be a great debate.
So it's Thursday, October 18th at Fitchburg State University's Kent Recital Hall.
Yes.
It's open to the public.
Absolutely.
It is free to attend, and you're encouraged to attend. But if you can't make it, FATV will be broadcasting live.
They will be, and I imagine they'll be putting it up on their website as well, so you should be able to find that at your leisure.
Yeah, so that's 6:30 p.m., and you'll be able to see the congressional candidates for our 3rd district.
Yes.
We have Lori Tran, which is the Democratic candidate.
Yes.
We have Mike Mullen, who is the independent candidate. And then we have Rick Green, who is the Republican candidate. So you'll be able to see them in a 90-minute debate where each candidate is asked 10 questions, correct?
Absolutely. We have a great format, a strong field of candidates. There's going to be a panel of 5 that will be asking questions from a number of major organizations
and our
throughout the region.
Is Charlie St. Amand.
He is returning to the region. He is. He's teaching at Suffolk University, but he jumped at the opportunity when we reached out to him.
I love it. All right, so we'll see you watching the 3rd congressional debate Thursday, October 18th, 6:30 p.m. Thank you so much, Chris, from the North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Sam.
All right. And you are watching Discussing Fitchburg Now with your host here, Sam Squailia. And on with me now, I have Senator Dean Tran. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to be on the show. I think this is my first time, isn't it?
No, you've been on before. Remember, we had a civic forum.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, with Sally Cragen. Yeah. Yes, so Senator Tran is coming on to talk to us about what's been going on in the Senate, what you've been working on, the different earmarks, the bills, all the intricacies of Senate life, right?
Right. It's been an incredible ride so far in the Senate in terms of my ability to work with my colleagues in the Senate, and I was very fortunate enough to be able to work on 4 financial bills, one of which is the budget, and the other 3 are bond bills. They were the capital facility bond bill, the economic development bond bill, as well as the environmental bond bill. And I can tell you one thing, I have probably the best staff in the whole entire world, because some of the days—
No bias.
So some of the days that we worked up at the State House, we didn't leave the office until well past midnight.
Because you have deadlines with certain bills, or
and we have deadlines where you have to file the amendments, and of course when you're filing amendments you have to know exactly what you're filing for and the language you have to use.
And if it's not perfect, then there's a problem.
Absolutely, because the Ways and Means Committee will look at that and say we can't let this go. It's either the language is not correct or it violates some rules, or it's not legal. So we have to get the language right, and first and foremost. Second of all, in order to get these amendments correct, I have to spend time communicating with the mayors in my district, as well as the town administrators, department heads, and members of the Board of Select in order to fulfill what they want me to deliver. And all of the things that my staff and I have been able to secured within the state Senate, 53 projects totaling $29.6 million. All those projects came from the communities. I didn't make them up.
Right.
So
you reach out and you're like, what are your project ID? What are your project suggestions? What do you need done, and how much do you need?
Absolutely, and that's part of being a politician. That's part of being a public servant, is being
communication,
listening first, communicate with them, and being able to deliver what they ask you to do. And people need to understand it's not easy. So when you get something passed through the Senate, that is the first step. The second step is you have to advocate for those amendments to be passed through the conference committee. And then after that, you have to make sure that they get past the legislature. And then after that, you have to make sure that they get signed by the governor. Right. So I know it's during election year, and I've heard all the news, all the rumors out there that, you know, those projects that Senator Tran is talking about, touting about, they're not real.
Right now you're at step 1 or step 2, but there's a lot more steps.
And the money is fake, and he didn't do all that work. Well, it passed the Senate, it passed the conference committee, it passed the legislature, it has been signed by the governor, all 4 bills, and we're in the process right now working with secretariats to make sure that the timeline falls into place where some of those earmarks are getting released. The projects within the budget, they're going to come out within the budget year.
So, all these things that you list on your website or your Facebook, because you list a lot of bullet line items with money. I mean, and it looks good. So, like something like, I'll start with Fitchburg. We have $100,000 for the YMCA, $30,000.
Actually, that's $103 and $103,000.
I was underestimating. You're right. You know your numbers. $30,000 for asbestos and lead removal from the library. $100,000 for weed eradication from the Nashua River. $500,000 for the Ideal Lab at Fitchburg State, which is going on Main Street. $4.5 million for Old City Hall, which means maybe we won't be spending $23.5 million of state borrowed funds.
So that number you're talking about, my hope is that once we get that money released, I'm hoping for that money to be used towards the town hall renovation, and whatever the money that allocated to town hall be used to fix some of our school maintenance issues. So I'm hoping that's the reason behind being able to secure that amount of money.
We maxed out our credit card with the old City Hall and the library and Crocker School Longs Joe plan, right? So that's great. So what you're telling me is these dollars are coming within this budget year?
So there's a difference between budget and bond bills. If the projects that I'm able to secure within the budget, and the budget year is 2019, anything in there is going to be released within the budget. So
is that these things out. I just said in the budget?
So the budget is the renovation for the YMCA, and keep in mind all these came from my communication with the leadership within the city. That entails the mayor's office, Fitchburg State University leadership, as well as some of the people in the community that wanted help.
Right. These aren't your pet projects.
Oh no, they're not. Because part of being who I am is listening to people and being able to deliver what they want me to do. And the other projects that you referred to, most of them, not all of them, most of them are part of the bond bills. Now, bond bills have a life of a 5-year span, so they could be released within the first year.
Within the 5 years.
Within the 5 years, so it could be released in the first year, or it could be released in the next 5 years from now. That all depends on the governor and our debt as well. So he's the one who signed off releasing them, and hopefully I'm going to be fighting real hard to be able to get these released as soon as possible.
For some of them more than others.
Unbiasedly
maybe
speaking.
I'm a little biased, yeah.
But some, of the $29.6 million that I was able, my staff and I were able to secure for the budget. Some of those projects range from $5 million to $7,200, and believe it or not, it's the small projects that I love so much, that I care so much, that I have the most emotion for, and that is, the $7,200 is from the town of Townsend. They asked me to secure that amount of money in the budget, so that way they could be able to construct a Veterans Memorial Monument.
That's nice. Yeah, and $125,000 for a town master plan. Townsend. There's a lot of good things on
A lot
the
of good
list.
things. You know, for example, Leominster has been asking for the new police station for a long
20
time, right?
years?
20 years or more. And,
They just purchased the building needed for combining the properties.
and I know it's going to cost a lot of money, but at least we were able to secure $4.5 million for them, and I look at that as seed money. Any kind of money that we can help them be part of the whole construction plan is very helpful, and we were able to secure that amount of money for the Leominster Police Department. I'm very grateful for that. But there's one thing that I'm very proud of is that we were able to secure within the budget $100,000 for the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, we'll be speaking to that. Yeah.
So they asked for that money so that way they can use that money to create a 25 years economic development blueprint for this whole entire region. And as you know, you and I have something in common, and that is we want economic development in this district, right?
We need it.
We need it. We need to create jobs. We need to help people get to work. We want to help people be able to put food on the tables and provide for their family. And hopefully this amount of money that my staff and I were able to secure for North Central Massachusetts will help move us forward. And we'll see how the chambers will use this money. And I'm looking forward to see that blueprint.
I love it. All right, so let's talk about, the things that you've done there. What about some things that you are working on? So I have one thing on here, talking about that, I was really interested in is the foundation budget formula, right, and the Chapter 70 funding from the state. So, we have, that's the formula that the state uses to calculate how much money the schools are required, that we're required to spend on the schools, and how much money the state gives, then Chapter 70 is how much the state gives to the city, net school spending, how much the city pays in, all of that. So that started in 1993, right? This
yes,
formula.
the year that I graduated from high school.
And so this foundation budget was supposed to be looked at every 4 years since it was enacted, but it has not been. The first one was, the first foundation budget review was in 2015, and that was commissioned by Senator Sonia Chung Diaz, right?
So they put together a foundation budget commission to review the foundation budget formula as well as Chapter 70 funding. And this education is near and dear to my heart. As you know, I'm a product of public schools, as well as I have 4 kids who attend public schools, right? I could send them anywhere,
and so do mine.
Right, because we have a great school system in the city of Fitchburg.
We
have a great school system. I know this across my district because I've visited all of them. And I made this my top priority of everything else. It was on the list of my priority. And I went to the state Senate with a goal in mind, and that was to work with my colleagues to make sure that we change something that hasn't been looked at since 1993.
Right, so they looked at it in 2015.
Right.
And they found a lot of the problems that, that people had assumed were problems. Like special education, budget is way underfunded according to their calculations. Healthcare for employees, way underfunded, and that really affects lower income communities like ours.
So I have a tremendous teachers base here in the district, and what they told me was that, Dean, we really need you to work on this. We really need you to work on this, and that's what I did. I went up there, I gave my maiden speech on a bill that the Senate was working on, and that bill was to modernize the foundation budget for the 21st century. When a legislator gives his or her maiden speech, that is the main speech you choose a topic on to give before you can speak on anything else. So unless you give your maiden speech, you have to sit your butt down on your chair and just sit there and do nothing. You can't speak. That's
going to be your thing.
So I gave my maiden speech. That's any legislator's main speech. I gave my main speech on that topic, and we united. The whole entire state Senate voted to pass that bill unanimously, and that bill called for the acceptance of the recommendations made by the commission. the formula that we're using was devised in 1993. Right. It hasn't taken into account the healthcare cost rise, the special education ratio, like English as second,
especially in districts like ours.
The healthcare cost alone right now is 140% over the allotment that we use.
Which means that cities like Fitchburg, especially, are using our funds that we might use for building maintenance on employee healthcare, on special education funding, on English as a second language learner funding.
So all the teachers across the Commonwealth was so excited, especially the teachers in our district. They were so excited because the bill passed the Senate. We worked really hard on that. But as you know, at on that level, it has to go through the conference committee because the House of Representatives was working on their own bill too. Yeah. So when both bills came into the conference committee, on the Senate side, all the senators were pushing for 100% funding of the bill. The House of Representatives came and they said they only want 70%. We keep on pushing. We conceded down to 95, 90, 85, 80. And the last day of formal session, we said, okay, let's accept them because at least we're making changes to the formula. At least towns and cities in my district going to realize additional funding. Had we passed that, cities like Gardner, Fitchburg, Leominster would have realized at least from $2 to $4 additional $1 million to their school budget. Huge. Right? And of course, we gave the 3 members of the Senate the okay to accept the House bill, House proposal at 70%. They came in there, and the members of the House of Representatives said no. Not even their own proposal.
So that bill, get it out of conference committee.
That bill completely died. Yep. So now, next term, we have to start all over again from the scratch. January 1st. Okay. And you have my commitment. I'm going to do the exact same thing. And hopefully this time around, the House of Representatives will come around and help us pass an education bill.
And Senator Chang Diaz, she's the lead sponsor of this bill.
She is the education. Yes, she's the education chair from the state Senate, and actually she loved the fact that I gave my maiden speech on a bill that she sponsored.
Right. Okay, great. So. Seems like a lot of the problem with this bill might have been that they were relying on the fair share amendment, the millionaire's tax, to pass. And then maybe that's where they'd be able to get their funding for this. Because according to estimates, they estimate that it could cost $2 billion to fully fund, if the foundation budget adjustment could cost $2 billion. So if you're funding that 100%, we need to come up with $2 billion, right? So would you say that's kind of where it stalled out, or what would you think were the issues?
No, the Fair Share Amendment had nothing to do with why it didn't pass the conference committee. Don't forget, the House of Representatives proposed 70% funding of the education bill. So that has nothing to do with the Fair Share Amendment.
It seemed like that's where they were hoping to get some of their revenue to pay for it. Well, where would you expect to get $2 billion if we're funding it at 100%?
Well, we have a very strong economy right now.
Yeah, we have like a $2.2 billion surplus.
We have about $1.6 billion, 50,000.
Over the projected. Over the projected income.
Exceeded the projected tax collection revenue.
By 1.1 billion.
They say about 1.6, and 500,000 of that went into the stabilization fund.
Okay, yes.
But we have a strong economy, and as long as we continue growing the economy, as long as we continue attracting companies and businesses to the Commonwealth, as long as we continue creating jobs and putting people to work, that's how we increase that tax base.
As long as we continue, like year 8 of the bear market or the bull market.
And I get very frustrated because, well, I get frustrated when the first thing that people look at or talk about when we talk about funding school, it's the first thing that comes to mind is raising taxes. Well, to me, the first thing that comes to my mind is increasing our tax revenue. And by doing that is growing our economy. And that's what we've seen this past year.
And so that's a good segue to the economic development bill, right? So this authorizes up to $500,000 in annual tax credits to businesses that occupy vacant storefronts in downtown areas. This is exactly what Fitchburg needs. $200 million in authorized bonds dedicated to MassWorks infrastructure, which Fitchburg partakes a lot in that, and Leominster does as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. We're at $12.5 million in competitive grants administered by Mass Ventures, and creates the annual sales tax holiday weekend.
Aren't those great?
Yeah.
And I'm so proud that I voted for that bill.
The $500,000 for vacant storefronts in downtown.
Oh yeah, it's going to play a big part in the revitalization plan for Fitchburg as well as the communities around us. It's a regional problem.
Oh yeah.
And within that bill, I was able to secure $6 million for the district in terms of other economic projects that the mayors wanted me to be able to secure for them.
Some of these other bullet points, some of these other good funded bullet points, you mean, are in the economic development bill.
Yes, yes. And one of the things that people don't realize, and I haven't told, is that on the Senate floor, I was able to work with a couple of my colleagues to pass an amendment that would include $50 million for gateway cities. And of course, you know why I did it.
That's us.
Right, because Fitchburg, Leominster are gateway cities, and what I did for Gardner was this, because Gardner didn't satisfy the criteria to be gateway cities, because their population is only 23,000. What I did was I worked with my colleagues to put in this language, similar.
Ooh, similar to gateway cities.
To gateway cities.
Oh,
and that would include
Gardner,
my third city to be included in that amendment that we were able to pass. And actually, I should also add, when I was working on that amendment, I text all 3 mayors, and I asked them, I want to make sure that they were part of the gateway cities, and of course, Mayor Hawk texted me back, said, I'm not, but how can you help? You know, so that launched that whole idea about putting the right language in there, so that way, not only Fitchburg and Leominster can apply for the money that we're trying to push on the Senate floor, but also a city like Gardner can also apply for it, as long as you put that right language in there.
That's great. All right, so moving on, since we only have a few minutes, how about Chapter 90 road funding, right? So the state funds all the municipalities with a supplemental road budget, right? Chapter 90. So Fitchburg gets like 1.1 million a year, approximately. And that's 200 million total throughout the state? 200
million in bond money.
Right.
Yes.
So we're getting another 40 million potentially? Did that pass?
Coming from the surplus.
Coming from the $1.6 billion surplus.
Yes.
And so that $40 million, that's going to add, like, what does that add, 20% to cities and towns across the board?
Not much. Not much.
Oh, wow, I mean, that goes
but something is nothing, right?
To like 1.3 million for Fitchburg.
But at least we're getting something for nothing, at least something. And every year, here's the problem. That amount of money that we take out in terms of a bond to pay for our paving, it's not enough. $200 million is not enough. Chapter 90,
$1 million's not even close
right,
to Fitchburg.
Chapter 90 dictates that throughout the Commonwealth, it should be on an annual basis about $679 million. And that's
we're underfunding the road budget by
underfunded.
a lot.
So that's one problem. The second problem is that it's only a 1-year bond.
Right.
So every year, you leave towns and cities not knowing if they're going to get the money.
So we could maybe make that a 3-year bond, and
that's what I said. Remember how I said when I go to the state and Senate, I'm going to push for a 3-year bond.
How's that going?
And it did pass the Senate.
Ooh. So when's that going to take effect?
It did pass the Senate, but it stalled. Guess where?
Conference committee.
Yes. again,
So we're going to take that up again in January.
infrastructure, that's one. Education is two. And part of my infrastructure, of course, you know that I'm adamant about
Route 2?
About Route 2. And,
Yep.
you know, I started
And Rick Green was out there with big signs saying, fix Route 2.
It's so important to the economic vitality of this district, because we've been ignored for so long. All the money has been gone to Boston,
East
and
of
right now,
495.
Route 2 cannot support the structure cannot support the growth here.
Especially at a speed limit of 55 most of the way.
Right, right. And if we want to attract companies, if we want to attract commerce, we have to change this. And of course, you know, I was able to do something that people said, Dean, you won't be able to do.
So we got a study going for Route 2,
So
and that's the
it took me twice, 2 tries.
So, but the criticism is we got a study for Route 2, but the studies never go anywhere. So how are we going to turn
It
that
has to
study
start
into a
from somewhere.
reality?
And because I pushed so hard, it took two tries. It went through the state senate, it went through the conference committee, it went through the legislature, and lo and behold,
The governor said-
I was at several ribbon cutting events, and the Mass DOT leadership in this district has contacted me and wanted to sit down and start that conversation. So we're going to do that, and let's see where that leads. And of course, you know, I can't neglect the other roads, other small so-called highways around where we are, especially
Route 2
Route 1.
is the number one.
Route 2 is number one.
Route 2 is number one.
Route 117, I was able to secure $250,000 to make improvement to Route 117.
Yep, they've been working on that. lately.
They are recently. They were able to acquire $500,000 from a previous bond bill to make improvement. And one of the things that I found out talking to these small towns was that Route 117 is locally owned. It's not a state highway.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Can you believe that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one more minute. Is there anything else you'd like to add that, you know, quickly that we might have not touched on? Obviously, we didn't touch on everything.
The other thing that I'm going to be working on very hard is getting involved in the opioid epidemic.
Oh, yeah.
I've been
That costs us a lot of money.
So we passed the opioid bill. We increased a lot of funding, but I've been spending a lot of time talking to a lot of health professionals in the district, and I found out a police chief, and I found out one thing that we are not focusing on. Right? In order to work on this epidemic, you have to provide medical and mental health.
Post-rehab care.
Behavioral mental health care. And one of the things is that we're missing that second component because we're not funding it correctly. We're providing medical care for an individual, and then we say, here you go, not helping that person up here mentally. And because
we have a recovery coach in Fitchburg. I think that's been working out really
But we're
well.
lacking the resources for behavioral mental health.
Right.
And that is because we're not paying them correctly. On the medical side, the reimbursement rate is at 180. Versus the behavioral health side, we're reimbursing people at the rate of 60. Huge difference, and we're not having that resource available for people who need it.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on Discussing Fitchburg Now with Senator Dean Tran. We'll see you later.
Thank you.